All right, let's move on to a controversial topic. Former Playboy playmate Kendra Wilkinson causing quite a stir in the media. Why? In a recent interview, she said that she would allow her 6-year-old son, Hank Baskett Jr., to see her naked spread in Playboy magazine. She did go on to say that she wears a bathing suit in the bath with him, but that a body is just a body. I want to ask, you know, Ariva and Dr. Lee, you're both parents. Mm-hmm. Would you let your kids see you in that situation?
Yeah, I think that it's okay. I think it's the way, the attitude that you give. Mm-hmm. You know, that you know, if you're comfortable with this, they're going to feel comfortable. If you're uncomfortable, I think they're going to think that there's something wrong with this. And you really have to pay attention to the cues of your children. I mean, my kids are 10 and 11 now, and when I'm in the bathroom, if I'm taking a shower and they're coming by, they look the other way. I mean, I notice that they're doing that, and they're purposely doing that. I didn't ask them to do that.
But what about the idea of the Playboy spread, which is very sexualized?
Well,
Because it's different than seeing you in the bath.
I understand that, but it's in a very, I mean, you know, I don't know. I haven't seen Playboy lately, but I would think it's going to be in a very beautiful
She didn't say
way.
she
It's
would,
not like she's...
She didn't say she would force him.
Wait a minute, guys.
She didn't say she wanted him to.
Yes.
I think the word was she would let him. Meaning,
I have zero interest in seeing my mom. Like, God bless her.
And her son probably feels the same. Her son most likely does not want to see that.
Weird.
And most likely will not take her up on the offer.
This is probably a cultural issue. Black woman growing up in a black family, black Baptist preachers in my life every day. Hell no. I cannot let my kids see me in Playboy.
But you probably wouldn't be in Playboy in the first place.
I might. No, I just think there's certain things that are developmentally appropriate. And I don't think at 6 years old I'm going to let my kids see me and my husband naked, because they're not developmentally ready to handle that. When they're older, then it's a different story. But at 6, I want my 6-year-old doing 6-year-old things.
Yes, that's true.
And not reading Playboy.
I just wanted to add that I think, you know, you and I were talking earlier about growing up in St. Louis. I think that there, you know, this is an LA culture out here where things are much more.
Let's talk to the Midwesterners.
Right, in the Midwest, I'll tell you right now,
hell no.
I grew up in a white family, and that wasn't going to happen. So, you know.
It's a St. Louis thing, maybe, Travis.
But I think it's important just to point out.
From our liberal friends in California.
As the liberal guy, it's important just to point out that we have no documented studies that have shown that it's inherently detrimental. And it's usually problematic based on whether or not the child was forced into it or whether or not they had the ability to consent or whatnot. So you use the word cues. If the child is giving cues that show they're embarrassed or they're not interested, honor that. Because it's usually the response that creates the problem, not what they saw. It's the way it's framed and dealt with.
I can just tell you this, that if your kid starts going to school saying that they look at Playboy and they're 6 years old, I'm certain that a teacher is going to call Child Protective Services and make a report. And they're going to have to call you and investigate it. Now, they may not, you know, find anything wrong with that home, but I think to most teachers and most educators, that's just not something that's...
It's going to be a red flag for them for sure. But, you know, we live in a sex-phobic culture. We're afraid of bodies. We body shame, so it doesn't surprise me.
You know what? I don't know that I would call it sex-phobic when you're talking about a 6-year-old looking at a centerfold picture of his mother. I've told this story before on the show, but when I was young, I had a teacher, elementary school teacher, later on, I guess it was around 7th grade, who had posed for Playboy. And, you know, back then, there wasn't the internet. And I'll tell you right now, every guy in that class was trying to get a hold of that.
That's right.
And it was probably a blessing that we didn't. Great teacher, like, wonderful experience, but I don't think it gets down to sex phobia. I just think it would have been, if I had gotten my hands on it, it would have been inappropriate. It would not have been a good experience for me.
And the same thing. Lesson, right?
And a teacher at that age is a little bit like a motherly figure to you. And I had, although I wanted to see it because of the intrigue, and I was 12. I mean, come on. It would have destroyed that dynamic for me. I couldn't help myself if it were there in front of me to look at it, and then it would have destroyed something. I have to think that there has to be for a kid that same response. Looking
How did that come out? How did she? Did she tell you guys?
Everyone. It was just a known thing.
Okay, so she wasn't.
And I'll tell you, she was absolutely beautiful. And the best teacher ever. But you know, back then things were so different. It was just, the social media didn't exist, internet didn't exist. It was all word of mouth.
Well, I still don't think a teacher right now should show their, show their students.
Well,
that,
she did, and luckily
certainly.
she did it.
We're not
voluntary.
asking that, yeah.